latest Google Search Console tutorials for beginners. In this video session, I'm going to introduce to you the Google Search Console with its latest features, as well as share with you tips and insights in terms of what to focus on. Keep in mind, RankYa YouTube channel has been maintaining video tutorials for all the features found in Google Search Console. So let's dive into it and see how we're meant to really use this tool here. On the left hand side, the latest user interface and menu options are different compared to previous years. Meaning, now that Google has Page Experience Update and Core Web Vitals, these reports are great to analyze and also utilize to improve the performance of your website, as in Google rankings and so on, okay? Also, we have this URL inspection tool. So let's quickly press on that. How can we use this? We can grab a sample URL from our website, place it within this inspect URL box, and press enter. When we do, Google is going to go and inspect that URL and allows us to test the URL live. That means this process it's in real time. And here it's telling us, you know what, that URL is available to Google. What that means is Google has gone ahead, looked at a certain URL that you're inspecting, and the content is available when someone searches Google search here. Okay. So that's what URL inspection is all about. Now, how do you use this really? Sometimes, depending on the website, the URL that you have on your website may not be indexed by Google. Meaning, it may have issues such as mobile usability issues. It could be other reasons in terms of Google Webmaster Guidelines. Meaning, when you publish a web page, it does not mean Google is going to see it and index it. Google indexes URLs only if it meets Google guidelines, quality guidelines, content guidelines, and so on. That's why this URL inspection tool is great, because here it says page can be indexed, but URL will be indexed only if it meets certain conditions, including Google Webmaster Guidelines. So let's go and see what else we're meant to really look at, because there is a lot of reports here. And if you're beginning and you've never used Google Search Console, you may be scratching your head thinking, okay, you know what? What's really important? How in the world is this tool useful for my website? Search results. Let's check all the boxes. Here it says, okay, as far as your website is concerned, that's verified with Google Search Console. Here we have date ranges, so we can change it if we want. We can also compare ranges too. So I won't complicate things, but rather tell you, last 3 months is the default. Here it says, these are the search queries that people have searched for. This is how many clicks that you've got. And the impressions is how many times a search query happened, your results were shown, but sometimes people don't click your results, right? So that's still counted in impressions. Click-through rate is how many times the rate of click happened. And then we have position here. That position is useful for you to analyze every now and then. So let's press on the position tab and to see what happens when we do that. Here, for this particular search pattern, I am ranking at first position here. So how is this useful though for your website? Let's imagine you're operating an e-commerce site or a local business site. Then you can say, okay, you know what? Show me 50 results. And then look at position, let's say 3, 4, position 5, 6. That means the results are lingering down the page. So what you want is, you want to say to yourself, okay, you know what? How do I then improve that? Let's imagine this scenario, right? Let's imagine GoDaddy versus Crazy Domains. I'm lingering in the 4th position, and it's actually searched term. I know that number is small, as in 133 times impression occurred, but I've only gotten 5 clicks. So looking at that, I may say, you know what? Can I create content targeting these type of keywords? Or pressing on that search query, I can then press on pages and say, okay, you know what? Which web page has gotten those clicks, as in those visitors? And then at that moment, I can say, okay, you know what? Let me go and see the web page. Can I improve this web page? Can I add complementary content? Can I tweak things around? Can I optimize the SEO title or meta descriptions so that I get better results from Google search? So that is how you look at performance search results. Discover is something to do with mobile. Most websites may see reports here, or some may not. This is all automated process. As in, Google analyzes a website and automatically may display special features called Discover on mobile. Now, how can you improve this results for Discover? Well, then you adhere to Google Webmaster Guidelines and let Google automatically take care of the rest. Now we have index coverage reports. This is very important here. Page experience, core web vitals, mobile usability, and index coverage report affect your Google rankings. But as we can see in my example, here it says why pages aren't indexed. And here it says the reason is this, excluded by no index tag. For my example, that's okay, I'm aware of it, because I'm using a WordPress content management system. That means it's okay to have certain parts of WordPress show no index meta tag. Let me show you what that is. Googlebot, we can send index, that means index the page Google, or we can say no index. That means do not index the content within this URL. Obviously, you don't really want to send no index tag unless you know exactly what you're doing. RankYa YouTube channel and RankYa blog explains all that stuff for you, okay? But nonetheless, if you end up seeing not indexed and you're thinking, you know what, I needed that product URL to be in Google's index. Why is it not in it? Then, as we can see, this report further guides us as to what in the world is going on. Why is Google not indexing that URL? And then we can take action accordingly. Then we have sitemaps. Sitemaps are absolutely important for Google search as well as website usability. There are many plugins or automated tools, as in online tools, that allow you to create XML sitemap. It's only in your website's best interest to submit an XML sitemap to Google so that it can analyze your website more efficiently and show the URLs that you want Google to show. Furthermore, do keep in mind that it's actually smart also to include HTML sitemap. This will actually help your website visitors should they get lost on your website, because that could happen. They may follow a link that no longer exists on your website, and if that's the case, if you prominently have a link to your website sitemap, then they may be able to navigate throughout your website more effectively. One way or another, you can definitely submit a sitemap, and you should 100% do this. Then we have removals. We can, in certain cases, say, okay, you know what? A certain URL that Google has somehow found following links, you don't want in Google's index. If that's the case, you can specifically request a removal for certain URLs. But if you're going to utilize this, then make sure the URL in question is either not on your website, or else Google will rediscover it. Or if you do not want Google to see it, then you show no index directive. Okay, let's close that up. Then we have the new latest Google Page Experience update. As we can see, here it says, no URLs with a good page experience on mobile. That means there are no URLs that Google deems to be good. Now, what is this page experience update all about? What is this report? Is this important? It is absolutely important, because when Google analyzes a website today in 2022 compared to previous years, Google introduced a new algorithm called Page Experience Update. The reports come from Chrome User Experience reports. That means it's actually very important data that Google analyzes and shows in Google Search Console. It's all about your website's user experience according to the latest Page Experience Update. That includes making sure that your website is using HTTPS. It is to make sure that your website meets Core Web Vital guidelines, which are to load largest contentful paint within 2.5 seconds. It is to ensure that there is no cumulative layout shifts. That means when people interact with your website, things don't, jag around. As if I was to press on a link, it should not move things around. And the first input delay. That means when someone interacts with a website on a mobile, how long does it take for that first interaction that I can do occur? Now, Core Web Vitals can be confusing if you're a beginner, but nonetheless, RankYa YouTube channel shares great tips and insights, whether you're a beginner or an expert. Okay? So, page experience, no URLs with good page experience on mobile. Well, that's saying, you know what? You need to improve the mobile user experience. Here we have the desktop report and also mobile report. That means when someone uses a desktop to visit the page, what happens? That's the desktop report. When someone uses a mobile device, let's say they used an iPad Air, this is how it would look. And what happens on a mobile device according to the page experience algorithm requirements. Okay, so here on a desktop, 9.2% are good. But here it's failing Core Web Vitals. Here it says 63 URLs with one issue, it needs improvement. Let's press on that to see what in the world that is. Here it says LCP issue, longer than 2.5 seconds on a desktop. What does that mean? That means let's press on this. On a web page, an element can be the largest contentful pane. By the time the web page loads, everything up to that largest contentful pane, it's taking longer than 2.5 seconds. Now what you can do is you can use testers such as PageSpeed Insight and say, okay, you know what? Let me go and test that URL to see what is the largest contentful pane and how long does it take. Obviously, in this example, it's taking longer than 2.5 seconds, which can be improved. Okay, so Core Web Vitals and page experience, this is important. How do I fix that? Well, there is many different ways. RankYa blog shares great tips and insights regarding Core Web Vitals and page experience update. Since this tutorial is for beginners, I'm not going to cover these because these could be complex if you're a beginner to understand. Nonetheless, just make sure that your website is mobile friendly and it performs rather fast, as in it loads fast instead of 5 seconds or 10 seconds and so on. Okay. Then we have mobile usability report here. Once again, all these are important. So you use Google Search Console basically to see, you know what, are there errors? If there are errors, they must be fixed. The URLs that needs improvement, you can slowly perhaps take care of that. But if there are coverage errors, if there are mobile usability errors, anything that's red, all those URLs need to be analyzed and fixed, or else our website won't be performing well and we will continue losing Google rankings. And that's the last thing that we want. Then we have site links, which are enhancements. Enhancements are usually to do with structured data. Yeah, if there are validation errors, then definitely take a look at it and fix it. Here it says view data about what we're having here. We have site link search box. Let's press on video enhancements. Here it's saying, you know what, you have some video structured data. Since RankYa creates how-to tutorials, the videos that I host on RankYa blog, I've actually created a plugin that adds the structured data. That means this video here, let's take a look. Let's look at the source code and let's search for schema. Okay, YouTube video object. Okay, so that's the structured data. So Google picks all that up and accordingly shows better results in Google search. These are called your enhancements. Most websites and content management systems do have plugins that allow you to further enhance the performance of your website. That's what enhancements are all about. If you're operating an e-commerce site, then you may have product structured data here. Should you use it? Of course, you should use any enhancement. Then we have security and manual actions. 99% of the websites will not have problems here. But nonetheless, although all the other reports are important, manual actions and security issues, they are the worst of all the problems. So manual actions can be taken by Google if the website is participating in funny link schemes, backlinking spam, or doing something that is against Google guidelines, such as keyword stuffing and so on. Then, if there are security problems, perhaps someone has hacked the website and placed malicious code, then Google will pick that up. Hopefully you want Google to pick that up, because some websites that, because I work online, I see many websites that look great, but there are security issues that website owner is not aware of. That's why you need to use Google Search Console. It's your website's friend. And then analyze the reports accordingly. International targeting are legacy reports. That means Google Search Console previously was called Webmaster Tools. And then you could set international targeting. But in my example, because I have verified the domain, it's not letting me. So let's press on that. Let me select the URL property. And then let me now press on Legacy Tools. Let me press on International Targeting. Here I can set language or even country. This is great for multilingual sites or websites that are country specific, perhaps even local businesses. Now, as we saw, when I have verified the domain property, that tool was not available to me. That means you can verify your website using domain property as well as URL property. Add a property. As we can see, you can select domain or URL prefix. Depending on the website that you're operating, perhaps you may want to verify both properties. Because in my example, you can see international targeting was not available using the other option. It's perfectly okay to verify domain property as well as URL property. Then we have web tools. Let's press on that. Here we have add experience report. That means if your website is putting out ads, perhaps you're using Google AdSense or other ads shown on your website, then you can definitely further explore the web tools available to you by Google. Okay, so I won't cover these, but nonetheless, that's available for website users using Google Search Console. Now, this video tutorial was created for beginners to Google Search Console. This tool is a great tool made available by Google itself. That's why it's important, because Google Search Engine is the most used search engine. So let me quickly wrap it up. Here on the left hand side, you have all the options made available to you. Search results you can explore to find new keyword ranking opportunities, as well as see which web pages are performing a little bit better. You can compare date ranges to see, is there ranking fluctuations? Because that could happen. And if that happens, then you think, did I change something on my website? And if so, did I do things correctly? Anytime you run into any issues or you want to find out more information for any option available here, simply make sure you're on the menu itself, then press on the question mark. Because the latest Search Console gives you help insights dynamically. That means if I wanted to find information related to page experience or Core Web Vitals, simply I need to be into those reports and then press on the question mark, because then I'll have insights for those reports here. I can always open the help section on a new tab as a new window to further learn about the requirements or the reports itself. So the help section in the latest Google Search Console is a great tool for you to perhaps quickly analyze and say, okay, you know what is Core Web Vitals about? How can I use Google search results? And so on. Make sure you have your sitemap submitted. Make sure there are no errors in the index coverage reports. If there are mobile usability errors, they must be fixed. If there are URLs that needs improvement, perhaps you can be a little bit more flexible in terms of how you approach fixing those. Because URLs that needs improvement, they're not really hurting your Google rankings per se. But when there is failing URLs and things that are in red color, then they must be fixed. Okay? In either case, RankYa YouTube channel has the tutorials for all of the features in Google Search Console. If you benefited from this video session, simply subscribe to RankYa YouTube channel and give it a like, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.